The majority of these games were blowouts, but let's get to the one that was actually close that just ended off the Panthers and the Falcons. That was a close game to the end. Carolina surprised Atlanta after Carolina pulled pretty much a no-show in Week 3 on Thursday Night Football. They played pretty well for the most part. Cam Newton came out. They were still trailing by 3 at the halftime, and then after a 60-yard pass from Ryan to Turner to make it 24-14, it looked like the game was over, but Cam Newton wouldn't go away as they got a 4-yard touchdown, making it 24-21. And then Newton in the fourth would pass to Kiola Pilares for a 36-yard touchdown, 28-24. And then Matt Ryan drove down the field, but they could only manage a field goal with 4:57 left. And then Falcons held the Panthers again, and then Matt Ryan drove down the field, 40-yarder is good, 30-28. And Cam Newton's one chance to come back was a sack, and they lose 30-28. Now, this was a little bit scary for Atlanta, but Carolina was in must-win mode pretty much. They didn't want to be down 3 games, but unfortunately, that was their destiny at the end of it all. And I think this is a good surprise for the Panthers that this is probably the best game they've had, with the exception of the game against the Saints, but Carolina really needed this win, and they just couldn't pull through at the end. But this is a great win by the Atlanta Falcons as they're going on the road to Washington next week looking to go 5-0. They're 4-0 as of right now. The Panthers have a home game against Seattle next week. It's going to be tough, but I think Carolina has a chance to win next week. We'll see, though. Seattle, St. Louis. We all know the controversy on Monday Night Football, but I wonder, they lost to the Rams. Is this karma? Or maybe the Rams are just a really, really good home team? I mean, Rams jumping down to a 13-7 lead. One of the touchdowns they got was a fake field goal where Danny Amendola was just sitting by himself saying, "Hey, I'm right here, touchdown." 13-7 at halftime, and then 16-7 on a 60-yarder by Greg Zuerlein. Wow, I hope you have him on your fantasy team. He has got a leg. And a lot of it was just field goals. Seattle really couldn't get anything going the last drive, as Russell Wilson would throw 3 picks on this day and got sacked twice. Sam Bradford didn't throw a touchdown, but he did enough to win 19-13 on 4 Zuerlein field goals. And the Rams, Seahawks are both 2-2 now. This is a good win for the Rams. I mean, they have a Thursday night at home against the Arizona Cardinals. And if they can beat the Cardinals at St. Louis, then it's got some. The season has some kind of promise for the Rams this year. They're playing better on defense, and they've been in every game this season. They're kind of a surprise, but the Rams, they just got to keep it up though. Seattle does take on Carolina next week. Let's move on to some of the other games around the league today. Let's go with the Chargers Chiefs, and this I find really shocking as the Chiefs had a major letdown today. 5 turnovers in the first half. Obviously, you're not going to win when that happens. 2 fumbles by Charles, 3 picks by Castle. Though I'll say, in Castle's defense, though, 2 of those wasn't his fault. Though it was tipped off McCluster and Moyaki, and you can also say there were some really bad calls in this game. But the Chargers, you got to give credit. They did win the game, but there was a lot of questionable calls in this game, and the Chiefs should have played a lot better than what they did. And the Chiefs just really couldn't get anything going. They were down 27-6 by halftime, and they just couldn't get anything. Ryan Matthews didn't start, though. It was Jackie Battle, though Matthews took a late load in the game when the Chiefs' defense was worn out. And pretty much that was it. Chargers won 37-20, and this was a bad loss for the Chiefs as they got upsetted today by San Diego. And the Chargers have to go on the road to take on the Saints next week. The surprise of the league is the Chargers are actually 2-0 on the road, but it could change next week. Maybe the Saints will beat them next week. Nobody knows, though. The Chiefs, though, have it tough, though, as they're already 1-3. They have to take on the Baltimore Ravens, and it's going to be tough, but, things happen every week, so maybe the Chiefs pull an upset at home. Nobody knows. All right, let's move on to Minnesota-Detroit. Detroit already been one of the biggest disappointments as they started at 1-2 before this game, and it continues as Percy Harvin starts the game out with a 105-yard kickoff return. And then the Vikings would push it to a 13-6 halftime lead, and the Vikings would eventually get a 20-6 lead by the end of the third on a punt return. So once again, Detroit's special teams is not doing well. Christian Ponder and Adrian Peterson didn't score touchdowns, though Peterson had 102 yards rushing. But Ponder only had 111 yards passing, and it's concerning that Detroit's defense actually played decently well for the most part, but your special teams is awful right now. They gave up 2 return touchdowns to the Titans last week, and they gave up 2 more today this week, and they lose 20-13 to the Vikings. And the Vikings, believe it or not, are 3-1. And the Lions are 1-3. And Detroit is taking on well, the good news for Detroit is that they have a bye week, but after that they have the Eagles, and that's tough. Minnesota, they're looking to continue their great season as they have the Titans next week. Good opportunity to go 4-1. Nobody would have guessed that at the beginning of the season. So good road win by the Vikings. Let's go on to the Patriots Bills. Buffalo started out hot. They were up 21-7 thanks to 2 Scott Chandler touchdowns from Ryan Fitzpatrick and a 68-yard touchdown pass to Donald Jones, making it 21-7. But New England, and this was by the third quarter that the Bills were up 21-7. Then Tom Brady said, "All right, I'm ready to show up now." He threw 2 touchdowns to Danny Woodhead and didn't even run it himself. Sorry, 1 pass, 1 rush though. 21-21 at the end of the third, and then it just got worse for Buffalo as Tom Brady was throwing a touchdown pass to Gronkowski, made 28-21, and then they get the ball back due to the Buffalo not being able to drive down the field and some really bad interceptions by Fitzpatrick. Stephen Ridley and Brandon Bolden capped in a touchdown, 42-21, and that capped off a 35-0 run by the Patriots. So it was 42-21. Buffalo, but they didn't get a score to Brad Smith for 42-28, but then didn't get much better as Brady drove that right back down the field, made it 49-28. Another Fitzpatrick turnover, 52-28, and the Pats get a much-needed road win, 52-28 over the Buffalo Bills. They're both 2-2. Pats got Peyton Manning and the Broncos next week. Meanwhile, the Bills have to go to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. Now, this is bad for Buffalo. Well, this was a kind of a bad loss for Buffalo. Well, it was a tough win for the Patriots. Patriots really needed this, but I think the Bills needed the win a lot more today, and they had a chance, but Fitzpatrick and the defense just came unglued, and Brady is just too good to be given many opportunities. And Brandon Bolden and Stephen Ridley, no one ever thought the Patriots running game would be relevant, but Brandon Bolden, 137 yards and a touchdown. Stephen Ridley, 106 and 2 touchdowns. And even Brady ran 1 touchdown. So 4 rushing touchdowns and 3 passing to the Patriots. And it's not good for the Bills because they're 0-2 in their own division. So they really got to fix it. All right, well, let's move on to the 49ers and the Jets. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Is it Tebow time yet? Is it now time for Tim Tebow to take the starting role for Mark Sanchez? We all know Darrelle Reeves is out for the season. And Alex Smith took no problem. Well, Alex Smith only threw for 143 yards, but the 49ers just beat him in all phases of the game. Colin Kaepernick scored on a wildcat play, 7-0. They would push it to a 17-0 lead at halftime with a Frank Gore touchdown. And then 49ers get a fumble return for a touchdown by Carlos Rogers, 24-0. And then 49ers get a field goal. And then another turnover led to a Kendall Hunter 1-yard touchdown, 34-0 shutout at New York. Terrible loss for the Jets. Sanchez only threw for 103 yards and a pick. Oh man, and a great rebound by the 49ers to show up after laying an egg against the Vikings last week. The Jets have a Monday night game next week against the Texans, and it doesn't look good right now. Is it Tebow time? Nobody knows. It was just dreadful to watch if you're a Jets fan. And the 49ers do have the Bills next week. Now let's get to the other games I haven't mentioned to you yet. The Tennessee-Houston game, Jake Locker would get injured in this game, and the Texans would have no problem capitalizing on it afterwards. They pushed out to a 14-0 lead. But then Matt Hasselbeck came in and threw a touchdown to 14-7, and it was that score at halftime. They thought, okay, maybe Hasselbeck can lead it back. But no, a pick 6 by Daniel Manning, and then Owen Daniels touchdown made it 28-7. And then the Texans will kick a field goal and then get another pick six, so it'll be 38-7. And then Hasselbeck will get a garbage time touchdown. Now I said it before. I thought Hasselbeck should have been the starter before that, but I don't know about this game. Well, I can't bash him on this game because he was facing a great defense. But good news for the Titans though. Chris Johnson actually showed up today. He had 141 yards in his best game of the season by far. I think his previous outing was like 35 yards, but the Texans still look good. They're 4-0. They're looking strong. But the Titans, they have to go on the road to take on the Vikings next week. And the Texans have a Monday night game against the Jets next week. Alright, that covered every game. Be sure to come back for my afternoon recaps. I'm out.